Hello everyone. Good evening. So before just starting into the Python class, let me just introduce about myself. So my name is Sharvari. I'm working as an intern in Pragyatmika. Okay. And I'll be your instructor for this course. Okay. So welcome to day one session of Python web apps and GitHub course. So let's start our journey. And in today's class, we'll be discussing about the introduction to Python. So since Python is the main programming language that we are discussing in our course, right? But why Python? Why do you think only Python? So Python, it is a basic programming language. Okay. So it is a high level interpreted programming language. It is like a Python is very easy programming language. Everyone say even if you're beginner to programming, Python is the best option to choose. Okay, because it is known for its simplicity and readability. So it was first created by Guido van Rossum, and then after that it was released in 1991. And we use Python in various domains. Okay, we use Python in various domains. This programming language is enough for many. This programming language is used in many domains like web development, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analysis, scientific computing, and more. There are many technologies that use Python. Okay, so then we can say Python is a popular programming language, right? Okay, so now moving on, why Python? Why we are even learning Python? What makes it special from the other programming languages? First of all, it is simple and easy to learn. Okay, so Python programming language is like a basic English language. If you are beginner, if you don't know anything about programming language, if you are reading any code that is already pre-written, if you are reading any pre-written Python code, then you can easily understand it due to its basic syntax. Okay, it is simple and it is easy to learn and readable and maintainable code. Okay, so Python, it is a readable and maintainable code. We can easily read the Python code. And even Python is used in wide range of applications. I'll explain that how we are using Python in different applications, in different technologies like web development, artificial intelligence, data analysis, etc., etc. And it has strong community support. And it has extensive libraries and frameworks. This is the main advantage of Python. We'll be having inbuilt libraries and frameworks which are very helpful in various technologies. Okay, so already the code exists for libraries and frameworks. Do you all know what is library and what is framework? Anyone know what is library and framework in Python? If anybody know what is it, just put the meaning of it in the comment box. What is library and what is framework in Python? I want all your responses, please. Okay. So if you are beginning to a programming language, right? So the libraries and frameworks, this is also discussed in the upcoming classes. See, libraries, it is like a collection of pre-written code. Will be, suppose if you want to include any functionality in your program, let's say how to take input. That is the basic function in any programming language, how to take input. So already the code will be written, how to take the input from the user, how the input is being taken, everything, right? That is like a function. But a library is a collection of pre-written code where we can just download it. We can just download it, and the developers, you can use it so that you can optimize your tasks. So libraries, they provide specific functionality so that you can integrate that functionality into your code as needed. Okay, so that is what library is. And how the library works is, you'll just install the library and you'll call the functions or classes from the library in your code to perform specific tasks. I'll take an example. Let's take, if you want to work with complex mathematical operations, you can just use a math library. If you just, everything has been pre-written code exists in the math library, you just need to download the math library and you can use the functions in the math library without writing everything, every function in it. Or for if you want to get into the data analytics, you can use the pandas library for data manipulation. Like that, we'll be using the libraries, and we'll be using the libraries and we'll be using import keyword for getting the libraries in our code. Don't worry, it might be confusing in the beginning stage. As you go on, as you study, as we move on to the next classes, you'll be understanding, you'll be getting the clear understanding of what libraries, what exactly Python, and from whole basic syntax to advanced level, we'll be discussing about it. Okay. And on the other hand, framework is more like a comprehensive structure. We build our application. It provides like a foundation and you write your code in a way that fits into the framework. Okay. Framework, it is like a architecture of your application, and it includes, a framework includes many libraries to help you build it. Okay. So when you use a framework, it controls the flow of your application. You write specific parts of the application, but the framework handles much of the structure and the behavior. Okay, so framework example frameworks as Django in Python. When you're building a web application with Django, you'll just follow its structure or models, views, or templates, etc. And Django, it manages many things like database interaction, security. Okay, so those are libraries and frameworks. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. So that is what we have discussed. Python is a high-level interpreted programming language. It is best known for its simplicity. It is a simple programming language. Even if you are a beginner, it is very easy to understand Python. And it was created by Guido van Rossum, and it was first released in 1991. And what are the key features? It is easy to write, extensive standard library, dynamic typing, interpreted language, and it supports multiple programming paradigms. So first thing is we can easily read the Python programming language and we can easily write it. And Python has very standard vast number of libraries. So which has in pre-written code in it, libraries. We can just use the functions directly of that library. And Python is dynamically typed programming languages, which means what? Generally, if you if you take another programming language like C or Java, we need to specify, when you are declaring a variable, you need to specify the data type of the variable also, right? If you are a beginner, it's okay, but if you are someone who has already worked with C or already worked with Java, if you are just taking a new variable, creating a new variable, you need to specify its data type of the variable also, right? But in Python, it is not like that. Okay, and it is interpreted language, and Python supports multiple programming paradigms. That is procedural programming language. Python is procedural programming language. Means what? We'll be writing up code in the form of a procedure. And it has object-oriented program. It is object-oriented programming language, which we say it as OOPS. OOPS concepts, object-oriented programming, which means what? We'll be writing our code in terms of real-world objects and classes. Okay, and functional. We'll be creating different functions in our programming language. Okay, so these are the key features of Python programming language. Okay, so why do we even use Python? So it is easy to write, right? And it is executed, it is interpreted language, which means what? It is executed line by line, which makes debugging easier, and it allows for interactive programming. Okay, And it is also used in various domains. Web development. In web development, we use in frameworks like Django and Flask. We'll be using the frameworks, Python frameworks for web development. And for data analysis, we'll be using NumPy and Pandas. And if you are into artificial intelligence domain, if you want to go into that domain, we'll be using libraries like TensorFlow and PyTorch. I think you are just listening to these libraries for the first time, but as you move on, you will be understanding. So we are having libraries like TensorFlow and PyTorch. So these are the libraries that we use in artificial intelligence technology. So these are also Python libraries. We use Python programming language to build these libraries. And in SciPy library, it's in scientific computing, we'll be using SciPy library. And there are many more technologies like that: game development, automation, everything, everywhere Python is used. Okay, and Python, it has vast libraries. It has many third-party libraries also. Like it will extend the functionality for various applications, right? So interpreted programming language means Python code is executed by an interpreter. So that we can easily handle the errors. That's the reason we say Python as interpreted programming language. Okay. And Python, it allows programmers to write the code that is closer to the human language. If you read the Python code, it is like a basic English. So everyone can read it and understand it easily. So it makes it easier to learn and use, right? And as I said, Python supports procedural programming, which means what? We are writing procedures that perform operations. So to perform any operations, we are writing the procedures for that operation to happen. And object-oriented programming, OOP. So we are organizing our code into objects that contain both data and methods. And functional programming means we are treating the computation as the mathematical functions, and we are avoiding changing state. So these all features, they make the Python a powerful programming language for wide range of programming tasks. Okay. Now, easy to write. These are the Python features, Python programming language features. First one is, so today we'll be just having the basic introduction of Python in today's class. Okay. So you'll be understanding what is Python, in which in different technologies, how we'll be using Python, etc., etc. Okay. So it is like a basic introduction to Python class, and we'll be discussing about how to download Anaconda and Python and Visual Studio Code in our PC or laptop. Okay. So that's what. So we are now continuing with the Python features. So first, Python, it is being a versatile programming language due to these features. Easy to write. So Python syntax is simple and it is clean, which makes it to we can easily write the code and quickly, right? Easy to understand. The readability of Python code is one of its main strength, we can see. Easy to understand. Why? Because we can easily, if you are just beginner to Python, if you are not into a programming language, till now you have not worked on any programming language, I'll just display a Python code, you can easily understand it, what operation it is doing, because it is closely related to the English language. So for both the beginners and experienced programmers, Python is the best option for programming. And Python supports object-oriented programming, which means what? We'll be creating the reusable and modular code. We'll be creating modules and objects so that we can easily reuse it. So we'll be discussing about object-oriented programming also in the upcoming sessions. Next, robust standard libraries. Python, it comes with a very rich set of standard libraries. So it provides tools for various tasks from input output to web development and beyond that. So many it has. So this is main feature, robust standard libraries. It comes with a very big set, a large set of standard libraries. So it supports various programming paradigms. So programming paradigms means we are having procedural, object-oriented, and functional programming. So Python supports these multiple programming paradigms. And it supports for interactive mode. Okay. So Python, it provides an interactive mode. So we can easily test, we can quick test and debug of code snippets. And Python is dynamically typed and type checking, which means what? The variable types are determined at runtime itself. So at the runtime itself, what are the variable types? Which means if you are using in other programming language, we need to write the variable type. If you are creating the variable for integer to store integer, you need to we need to write the variable type. But in Python, it is not necessary. So the variable types are determined itself at the runtime. And it also supports type checking. It also supports type checking to ensure code correctness. Okay. Next is Python databases and GUI programming. So Python, it can interact with databases. Okay. We'll be using Python. So we'll be using Python for interacting with databases. And we can create graphical user interfaces, GUI. GUI means graphical user interfaces using libraries like SQLite, MySQL, TakeInter, and PyQt. These are different libraries we'll be using for interacting with databases and creating graphical user interfaces. And the other feature, coming to the other feature, what is the other feature? Extensible. So we can extend Python with modules and extensions that has been written in other programming language like C or C++. Okay, so we can extend with extensions written in other languages, okay, for additional functionalities. Okay, portable. This feature means Python code, you can run Python code on various platforms without modification. So without modification, you can run on various platforms. That's the reason this is the Python has portable feature. It is highly portable and scalable. Okay, scalable. Python, it is suitable for both large scale projects and small scale projects. So Python is suitable for both small scale and large scale projects. So that's the reason Python has scalable feature. Next comes the integrated. So we can easily integrate Python with other technologies. Okay, so Python can be easily integrated with other languages and technologies. Next, automatic garbage collection. So Python, it has an automatic memory management system. So it will handle the garbage collection. So it will free up the memory that is no longer in use. Okay, so that is what the future of Python is, automatic garbage collection. So it will automatically free up the memory which is no longer in use. And the last one is free and open source, which means what? Python is free to use and distribute, and its source code is open. So its source code is open, and anyone can contribute to its development. Okay, so these all features, they collectively make the Python as widely adopted and highly versatile programming language. So let's move on to the next slide. So these are about the Python features. Okay, So next, move on to the next slide. We'll be seeing what are web frameworks. What are different web frameworks of Python that we generally use for developing the web applications. First is Django. So Django, Flask, and Streamlit, these are the web frameworks that use Python programming language. So Django, it is a high-level it is a high-level framework, and it encourages rapid development and clean pragmatic design. These are the frameworks that we generally use for developing the web applications. So I'll be discussing these frameworks in detail also in the upcoming session, but in the upcoming slides. But just think Django, Flask, Streamlit, these are the frameworks that we use in for developing the web applications. So now we have Flask. Flask is a micro framework. It is lightweight and flexible. And Streamlit, this is also micro framework, and Streamlit we'll be discussing in our course. Okay. So Streamlit is a web framework that we'll be discussing in detail, and we'll be developing a project using Streamlit framework only. Okay. Next, advantages. So simplified development process. So we are having robust libraries for accessing the database, form validation, and more. And there are built-in security features for Python. Okay. So we are having, what are the websites that generally use Python for web application, for developing the web applications are Instagram. It uses Python in its backend for developing the web application. Spotify. This also uses it also uses the Python in the backend. Reddit, Dropbox. These are the websites that generally use Python for backend. And Instagram, this is the most common website that everyone uses. So it also uses Python in its backend. Okay. So Instagram, it uses Django for its backend services. So it is a popular social media platform where users share their photos and videos. Next, Spotify is the music service. It provides access to millions of songs, right? I think many people even use this. So Spotify uses Python for various backend services. Reddit, this is a news application, social news application, web content rating, and it is like a discussion website. This website also uses Python for its backend process. And Dropbox, it is the service it offers cloud storage and file synchronization. So Dropbox uses Python extensively in its background. Okay. And Streamlit is the framework we'll be discussing in our course. So Streamlit is a micro framework. It is designed for creating data applications. So it is simple to use. Okay. It's simple to use, and it focuses on, it will turn the data scripts into shareable web applications quickly. Okay. So it is easiest framework that we can use to develop the web application. So we'll be discussing Streamlit. And Flask is also a micro framework. It is lightweight, and it doesn't come with many built-in features. So only whatever the tools and libraries that developers want, only those are given the access. Okay. So only those can be chosen. And Django, it comes with many built-in features, such as object relation mapping, authentication, and admin panel, etc. Okay. Now let's move on to the next slide. So as I discussed, what are the websites that generally use the Python? Dropbox, even Google use Python in its backend. YouTube also. Now let's move on to the Python applications. First thing that comes is web development. In web development, we'll be using Python. So Python is used widely for developing the web applications. So we are having several frameworks for developing the web applications. We are having Django, Flask, and Pyramid. So these frameworks, whatever we are using, Python frameworks, they just simplify the process of web development because it offers the pre-built modules and it has pre-built tools. Okay. And in software development, so Python can be used to develop variety of software applications. Okay. We can use Python for developing variety of software applications because it is simple and we can easily read it. So that's the reason it is an excellent choice for both small scale and large scale products. So software development means we'll be using Python in IDEs, creating integrated development environments, IDEs. For business applications, productivity software, like we are having many productivity softwares. So in those cases, we can say example. Next, the database access. Okay. So Python, we can use Python to interact with database, to store the data, or to retrieve the data, or to manipulate the data. The basic data operations are to store, retrieve, and manipulate data, right? So it supports several database systems, including MySQL, SQLite, and Oracle. Okay. And Oracle. So we'll be using for database management tools, data analysis applications. For that, we'll be using Python. Next, game development. So Python, it is used in the development of video games. So we'll be having libraries called like a Pygame. They provide functionalities to create our game graphics, and sounds and physics in our games. So simple 2D games for developing game prototypes, will be using Python in that. Next, desktop applications. You can see here, desktop applications. So we'll be using Python for creating the graphical user interface. So libraries like tkinter, pyqt, they make it possible to develop desktop applications. Desktop applications, you can think like a media player in your desktop, file browser, text editors. In that also, we can use Python for creating the desktop applications. And in education, so we'll be using the education portals, right? So to creating the teaching tools, we'll be using Python. So we can use for teaching the programming, computer science, and data analysis. For all the developing the education portals and education applications, we'll be using Python. Okay. Next, network programming. Python is used for network programming to develop applications that need to communicate over a network. So like web servers, email clients, file transfer programs. In these cases, we can use Python. So it has various libraries for handling various networking protocols. And 3D graphics. Python is used in creation of 3D graphics. We'll be having libraries like Blender, Maya, and VTK. They allow developers to create 3D models. 3D models, we can create animations and simulations. So we can create 3D modeling software, animation tools, virtual reality applications. So all these due to Python's extensive libraries, so it makes it suitable for this all wide range of applications. That's the reason Python is the popular choice of programming language, we say. Okay. Now let's move on to the next slide. So benefits of using Python for web applications. So if you're building a large scale web applications, it provides a scalability. Even if it is a large scale web application or small scale web application, we use Python. And efficient memory management and execution speed. So execution speed of Python is very high. So its performance is also good. So we can integrate with other technologies also. Okay. We can integrate with other technologies and services. And it has built-in security features. It helps against common threats, common web vulnerabilities. From all those web vulnerabilities, it helps us protect against those common threats. So these are benefits of using Python for web applications. Okay. Now, these are the Python web frameworks, different Python web frameworks that we generally use for web development. So first, you can see here Django. So it is like a high-level web framework. It provides rapid development. Okay. It is Django is a web framework that we use in backend. It is ideal for building complex database driven websites. For websites, it will be having complex database. You need to access that has many database features, like many database applications. Database requirement. In that case, you'll be using Django. And Flask, here you can see Flask. So it is lightweight and it is flexible. So actually Flask, it does not have many built-in features. So the developers will add the extensions that they require. Okay. So Flask, it is suitable for small to medium-sized web applications and APIs. And you can see a pyramid. So it is a flexible framework. So it is designed to scale with your application. It works well for both small scale and large scale applications. So we can use pyramid for simple applications and we can scale it up to complex applications. So it is suitable for both small scale as well as large scale applications. Bottle, here you can see Bottle. So it is a lightweight micro framework. So it is designed for, it is good to use for small applications and prototyping. Okay, so it is a single file. Bottle is a single file. It doesn't have any dependencies other than Python standard library. And it is suitable for building simple single file web applications. You can use Bottle for that. Okay. So Web2Py is also a framework. It is a full stack framework. It includes everything that you need to build and deploy web applications. It has a web-based IDE and it is good for rapid development and deployment for full-featured web applications. And we have Grok. It is a framework that is built on toolkit of the. It is built on top of the Zope toolkit. So it is suitable for developers who prefer convention over configuration. And the developers who are familiar with Zoop toolkit, they can use these Grok framework. We have CherryPy. So this is also an object-oriented web framework. So it allows the web developers to build web applications. In the similar way, they could build any other object-oriented Python program. So this CherryPy is ideal for developers who are looking for minimalist approach with object-oriented design. So these all frameworks, they provide a wide range of options. We have from lightweight micro frameworks to full stack frameworks for different needs and preferences based on the website that you want to build. Okay. So these are Python frameworks. Now coming with the Python syntax. So I'll just give the basic explanation of syntax. Don't worry, we'll be going in detail of the syntax from basic. Okay. So don't worry. From beginner, we'll be explaining, but just let me explain the basic Python syntax. Okay. So first, we'll be having comment. We'll be having comments. So comments are like if you don't want to if you want to add any explanation to your code, or if you want to add any notes to the code, in that case, we'll be using comments. Okay. So whatever might be the programming language, the first thing that we'll be discussing is comment, right? So Python comments, they're just used to add the explanations or notes to the code. So comments, these are ignored when the interpreter runs the Python code. Comments are being ignored by the Python interpreter. So comments can be a single line. We'll be writing the comment in this, might be, we can write the comment in the single line, or we'll be writing in multi-line. So the single line comment will be using hashtag symbol before the comment. So if you want to write anything, any line that explains something, you want to add any notes to the code, it is, if I'm writing that in a single line, I'll be using hashtag. Okay. So I'll be using the hashtag symbol. And if you're writing your comment in many lines, if you want to write your comment in many lines, multi-line comments, so Python for that will be using triple quotes. Okay, triple quotes for creating multi-line comments. Okay, so they're active to create multi-line strings that are not assigned to any variable. For that also we'll be using multi-line comments. Okay, this is about comment. Now to print anything to the user. So if you want output to see something, generally what we use, just think of a computer, basic computer. What are the input devices, output devices? Input devices will be having keyboard in a basic computer. Basic for computer devices will be having input, and the output device like a printer. If you want to display something to the user, it'll be using printing, right? So that the user can see it. Similarly, to describe the output to the user, I'll be using this print function. So print, this will generally display the output to the user. So print, and whatever the content that you want to print, that you'll be writing inside these brackets. So print is the inbuilt function in Python. So we are not writing the code, how the printing is happening, how the internal operation is happening, how to print it to the user. Just we have the inbuilt function print and brackets, and in the string, for strings we'll be using double quotes. So string means any collection of characters. So for that we are writing whatever that you want to display to the user, we'll be using print. It is like a printer, you can say. Why will be using printer in normal computer device? We'll be using printer to give some output to the user. Similarly, I want to display something, for that I am using print. And to store anything, we'll be using variables. So here I am using the variable called a variable as name. The name is to the left side. I'll be writing the name of the variable. So here my name of the variable is name itself, equal to means we are assigning a value to this variable, which means whatever value we are writing onto the right side, that has been stored in this variable. Variable is like we are creating the names. Suppose if you are there, I'll be giving the name to you, right? To access you or to identify you, I'll be giving a name to you. So it is similar to that. Okay. So here is also, these are also the variables. So here it is storing the integers. So x is to the left hand side, the variable name, and the variable value. The value is the right hand side. Is equal to, it is used for storing. X equal to 5, y equal to 10, z equal to 20. These are the variables. And we'll be having conditional statements also. So if condition, based on condition is performing some, don't worry if you're not understanding it. I'm just explaining the just introduction to Python syntax. We'll be discussing each of them in detail in the upcoming sessions with practical classes. Okay. So today is just the introduction of the class. So just try to understand what is Python, why do we use it, what are the benefits of using it, what are the futures, and how can we start with the Python. Okay. So these are conditional statements. Based on conditions, we are executing, we are performing some operation. It is like, see, I'm checking the condition whether I'm hungry or not. Whether I'm hungry, then will you want to eat? So that's the reason I'm using if statement. So I'm checking whether I'm hungry. If hungry is true, I'm eating. Okay. So this is it. You can see here we are having a basic syntax. We suppose if you go in other language like C or Python, just to take the input from the user or just to print something, you need to write several lines of code, right? Suppose if take a C example C. If you want to print hello world, you need to write many lines of code. We need to include the libraries, hashtag include stdio.h, or we need to if this is optional, hashtag include code.h, and we need to declare the main function void main void or void main, and what are the variables that you need to use you are using that you need declare that you need to declare, right? Okay. So that you might need to declare the variables that you are using. So if you are going in another programming language, if you are just writing a single line, if you want to just print anything, you need to declare. You need to include the libraries. Like example, see we are including hashtag include std standard libraries and conio.h. Then you need to declare the main function. Then you need to declare the variables and data types that you are using. Is my voice clear now? Okay. So we need to write many lines of code if you are using other programming languages. Is my voice clear now? Okay, okay. Okay, is my voice clear now? Okay. So if you are using another programming language like C or Java, you need to write several lines of code just to perform a small task. To perform a small operation, we need to write several lines of code. But in Python, it is not like that. See, if I want to print something, I'll just write print hey. That's it. The printing happens. Okay. So it is like that. We'll be using. So that's the reason we say Python has basic syntax. Now let's move on to the next slide. Okay, everyone. So since we are facing network issues, we'll be continuing the class tomorrow. So I request everyone to join the session tomorrow through the YouTube live. Okay. So we'll be continuing our class tomorrow, and the attendance link will be shared in the comment box. Okay. So the attendance link will be shared. So sorry for the network disturbances. We'll be continuing our session tomorrow. Just fill up the attendance link. So remember, you need to fill up the attendance link every day to get the attendance. So attendance is very much important for this course. You need to have attendance, minimum attendance percentage. No, you don't need to download anything for tomorrow. I'll be explaining what to download and all tomorrow.